Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul is considered a long shot for the White House, but in the Nevada caucuses, the Texas congressman came away with a second-place finish. In fact, he's beaten Rudy Giuliani in every state but New Hampshire, and his supporters like to rub it in. At a recent Giuliani event, Ron Paul supporters caused such a ruckus, Rudy Giuliani had to head back inside. In the background of the clip we're about to play, you can hear them chanting, "Ron Paul, Ron Paul," and then booing the former New York City mayor while he's trying to speak.
New York, and the reality is that we will, I think, do very well in New York, in New Jersey, in Connecticut. But a lot of the
Republican presidential candidate and Texas Congressman Ron Paul joins me now. Congressman Paul, I've got to warn you, sometimes the people over on our news desk over on this side tend to sound a little bit like that. So if it gets noisy, you'll know it's not supporters of another candidate. Does it cause you concern that your supporters are out there causing trouble?
Well, I would if it's real trouble. If it's, a little rational exuberance, I guess I can go along with it. But they shouldn't be rude, and they know that. But, they feel, I think, like that I've been mocked by Giuliani on the air and made fun of and laughed at, and they feel like a little fair play, of cheering and using my signs. I don't think they think they're doing anything wrong, but people shouldn't be rude, and they know that I advise against it.
We're doing a lot of talking about the economy today, Congressman Paul, and your economic policies came to my attention even before you started running for president, because you were interviewed in the documentary America from Freedom to Fascism, which concludes that the federal income tax is unconstitutional. If you were president, would you do away with the income tax?
Well, even though, especially the way we collect the tax, I believe, is unconstitutional, and many, say the way it was passed was not legitimate. But that should be the goal. I don't like the income tax. It's bad for the economy. We lived a long time without the income tax. If we got rid of it tomorrow, we would still have as much revenues as we had 10 years ago, and the government was pretty good size back then. So the question isn't whether or not I could do it, because I can't do it as an individual. The question is, will the country be better off without it? And I think they would be. But we'd have to cut spending. I mean, if we just cut it right now and continue to, police the world and run a welfare state, it would make our problems worse. I mean, where would they get the money? They'd go back to the Federal Reserve and print more money. And that wouldn't be feasible if we had honest money. We wouldn't allow the Federal Reserve to create money out of thin air. So what the important question is do we want to change the role of government? And that's what I want to do, and that's what my supporters want done.
And it's interesting because the other candidates all have a similar message in fiscally responsible government. Everybody talks about it, but it doesn't happen. And election after election, we hear this mantra of fiscally responsible government. And then what we see is lawmakers asking for pork barrel projects. And people who work for government go into work and they see wasteful practices daily. You already work on Capitol Hill. If it's so important, why isn't it already changing?
Because it's too easy to be tempted to try to get a free lunch, and we have been a wealthy country, and they've been getting away from it. But where I get my support of people who go, and not only do they look at my positions, they always go and look at my old videos and how I voted. And I say, my goodness, he actually voted that way. He'd even vote by himself in order to stick to what he has promised to do. And then they'll go back and get a video 20 or 30 years ago, and they'll find out I've said the same thing. So there's a lot more trust based in what I'm saying.
And when we look at the events that are affecting the economy, and you look at the falling value of the dollar, at major corporations in this country getting bailed out of their own economic problems by foreigners, the national debt is astronomical. Do you see a clear way out?
I do, but it's a major undertaking, because I would do all the cutting from overseas, and I would take care of the people who have become dependent, although I think they have been put on the dole erroneously, such as people receiving medical care and others, but I wouldn't attack that. We're spending nearly $1 trillion operating our foreign empire, and that has to come to an end, because we're doing it through inflation and through borrowing from China. So I would save hundreds of billions of dollars. I'd come home from Korea and Japan and Europe, and I'd come home from the Middle East. We could save a lot of money. We'd have a stronger national defense, not a weaker national defense. I believe I would have a diminished threat from terrorism, but we would have enough money to cut taxes, restore confidence in the dollar, and actually take care of the people here back at home.
Congressman Paul, I know you're a busy man. I appreciate your time.